Welcome back to Carefully Speaking, a podcast that centers health and wellness for individuals, for families, and for communities who are often carrying more than what's visible. I'm your host, Dr. Jamillah Brown, and today's episode is titled, Who Heals the Healer? So we're in the end of March and we're closing out Social Work Month and also Women's History Month. But in just a few weeks, we'll be moving into Black Maternal Health Week, which is observed annually from April 11th to April the 17th. And then, as we enter into the month of May, we move into yet another significant theme, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So this entire season is really inviting us to reflect, not just on who we care for, but how we care for ourselves. And this episode is just for the caregivers, right? For all of the helpers, for the ones who are holding everyone together while silently holding their own challenges. So let's talk about it. So I want to start off by talking about something that I call the invisible labor. Okay? So there are many of us today, especially women and people of color, who've been taught that strength is silent. Okay? We've been taught that vulnerability makes us look weak. Right? We've been taught that there's no room for us to fall apart, simply because there are just too many people who are depending on us. We're the big sisters. We're the caregivers. We're the helpers. We're the social workers, we're the professionals. We're also the mothers and the friends and the aunties and the grandmas and the godmoms and everyone who keeps showing up, even when we are not okay. This is what I call the invisible labor of healing. It's not about what we do in our careers or in our family life. It's about how we move around in the world. It's the very energy that we pour into others. And it's the emotional weight that we carry for our families, for our partners, for our communities. And we do this so much without any acknowledgement and without any rest. And so during this month, as we end out March, ending out Social Work Month and Women's History Month, I want to take a moment to speak directly to my peers and to anyone else who might identify as a healer in their own right. And here's what I want to say to you. You are more than your role. You are allowed to need rest. And you are allowed to be understood. Yeah. Just let that sit in for a second. So lately, I have been doing a lot of reflecting, and I've been asking myself the same question more and more. And that question is, who heals the healer? Yeah, who heals the healer? So I've always identified myself in a healing capacity in one way or another, either as a social worker or as a mother or as a woman who is navigating her own life transitions while also still trying to redefine what life looks like on the other side. And with all of that, I've even had to sit with this really big question and get really real with my own self. There have been moments when I would be, facilitating a group session or an individual session with a client. Or maybe I was running a staff meeting, or maybe I was providing supervision to one of my direct reports. Or maybe I was just simply holding space for someone else. But there have been many moments where I was doing all of this, but quietly holding on to my own grief, holding on to my own frustration, and holding all of my exhaustion inside. And yet, I still showed up because that's what I do, yeah, but that's also what I've been taught to do. And we know that over time, and I've come to realize this as well, the cost of only showing up for others and never showing up for yourself is just too high of a cost to take. And that toll, wow, well, it takes a toll on us for sure. It takes a toll on our bodies, it takes a toll on our minds, and it takes a toll on our spirit, right? Physically, that can look like chronic fatigue, muscle tension, pain, migraines, things that just don't go away. Emotionally, it can show up as burnout, feeling overwhelmed, stress, anxiety, depression, or becoming emotionally numb. Yes, emotionally numb to protect ourselves. And then spiritually, right? Spiritually, it can feel like a huge disconnect, a disconnection from ourselves, from our purpose, and from the joys that we used to feel in the work that we do. And so while we are constantly pouring out and not being poured into, it is draining. And it's not just draining, y'all, it's depleting. And it can leave us feeling like a shell of ourselves. So for me, healing is not just something that I teach, it's something that I have to practice. And it starts with allowing myself to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling in the moment, to be poured into and to rest without guilt. Yeah, we often feel guilty about resting. So now I want to tell you a story. I love telling stories, and this one is about a client that I was having a conversation with just this past week. And we were having a very powerful discussion because this person had recently experienced a major family loss, right? So they were in crisis. And as we talked through their grief, I helped them focus on processing the loss, of course, but also thinking about how to manage their time in a way that felt supportive. And so during this conversation, the client mentioned that their employer offers up to 3 days of paid bereavement leave, right? So I'm like, wow, that's great. And immediately I jumped in with support saying how great it was that they'd be taking 3 days to rest and grieve. But you know what? My client paused and said, well, no, I'm only taking 1 day. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I was so surprised, and I asked why. And they replied, because I just feel like I need to go back to work. Wow. That moment really stuck with me. And it made me think about how so many of us, right, especially those of us who are caretakers and healers, how we often feel so compelled to just keep pushing through, even in the face of something so profound as a family loss. And we even convince ourselves that we cannot afford to slow down, right? We cannot take any time off, even when we are given that time. But what I need you to know is that rest is not selfish. Taking time to grieve, taking time to process, and taking time to breathe is essential. It's a part of what makes us whole as human beings. And so all of this has a much bigger meaning, right? There's a lot happening in the world right now, and I don't have to tell you all what that is, right? But I'm just going to say that we're in Social Work Month, and this month is about honoring the profession. But many social workers are burned out. This month is also about Women's History Month, right? And it's about celebrating the strength of women. Unfortunately, many women are barely making it through the day. And now, as we head even further towards Black Maternal Health Week in April, we are yet reminded again of the very real disparities in healthcare, in treatment, and in outcomes for birthing people and women of color. And it's a real stark reminder, right, that our healing must be a priority and not an afterthought. We deserve the spaces that affirm our pain and that honor our healing. We deserve the systems and the supports to enhance our well-being. And we deserve rest. We deserve nourishment. We deserve joy. And so now that I've given you all of these things to think about, right, I want to leave you with something. I want to leave you with a few practice strategies to support your healing this week. So what I've done is I've come up with these 4 different techniques or strategies, and you can use them as you feel necessary. You can do all of them or one of them, whatever you choose, whatever works best for you. But the first is a 5-minute body check-in. Now, I do say 5 minutes, but again, that is not etched in stone. So if you're a person that likes to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes for yourself, that's totally fine. Whatever works for you. But I'm just asking for a minimum of 5 minutes. When you think about it, that's really not that long. It's about as long as a commercial, about as long as a song that you'll hear on the radio. So just 5 minutes a day to pause and ask yourself, what is my body telling me right now? And I would even take that a step further, right? I would ask that you connect your mind and your body. And you can do that by sitting still or standing comfortably, placing one hand over your heart or on your chest or on your stomach, and then just taking a few deep breaths in and really paying attention to the ebb and flow of your hand moving up and down, right? And while you're doing that, do you notice any tension in your body? Do you notice any tension in your shoulders, in your back, in your jaw, right? I personally tend to carry stress in my back, so I know what that feels like, right? So pay attention to those areas of your body where you may be feeling sore or feeling tight. And as you continue to breathe, I want you to consciously release one thing that you do not have to carry today. Okay, we're only focusing on today. So whether it's a stress or a worry or an exhaustion, I just want you to consciously release it. And this practice is going to help you reconnect with your physical self and your emotional self. And it's going to help you acknowledge what your body needs. Okay. So the next strategy that I want to talk about is setting a small boundary. Okay, yeah, I can see your faces right now. Some of you are like, I'm not really good at setting boundaries. Yeah, I completely get it, right? But this is a small boundary that I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is just identify one small way that you can set a boundary this week. And it could be something as simple as saying no to an extra task at work or letting someone know that you're unavailable during a specific time. We need that. We need those boundaries to protect our energy and to remind us that it is okay to prioritize our well-being. So in setting that small boundary, I want you to get in the habit of practicing and saying, I'm really not available right now for that. or I'll get back to you later, right? Just remembering that those small boundaries are really going to add up over time, and they're going to help you build and create healthier relationships and better self-care routines. And the third strategy that I want to give you is creating a rest ritual. Yes, rest ritual. It sounds like it's a little counterintuitive, right? Resting and ritual. It almost seems like you're doing the opposite, but no. Creating a rest ritual is really about dedicating at least one evening this week to winding down intentionally. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to choose an activity that calms you, right? Maybe you like taking bubble baths. Maybe you like drinking herbal tea. Maybe you like journaling, or maybe you just like sitting in a quiet space. So you choose what activity calms you, and then you set a rule. And that rule is no screens, no emails, and no social media, and no obligations. Just you and your chosen form of rest. Because the thing is, we often associate rest with sleep, but they're not necessarily synonymous. They are actually quite different, okay? Rest is about creating the environment, the space, the timing, the ambiance, whatever it is that you need to just be you without doing anything else, right? So making a rest ritual rather than resting as being just, something that's a fly-by rare occurrence. No, making it a ritual is going to reinforce to you that you deserve to recharge. And then the last and final strategy that I want to give to you today is phone a friend. Yes, phone a friend, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? So think of one healing friend that you trust, who makes you feel safe and who really hears you. And I want you to reach out to that friend and just simply say to them, "Hey friend, I've been holding a lot lately. Can we check in with each other this week?" Yeah. And when you do, share what you're going through, really, honestly. And don't think that you're being a burden to anyone. No, because it's about creating mutual support. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. We pour into each other, and therefore our cups are never empty. So sometimes just having that space to talk, or even just to listen to someone else, can make a huge difference in how we process our emotions. So if you've been listening all along to this episode and you realize that you are a person who's been showing up for everyone else, I want to ask you something now. What are the roles that you are identifying with in your life? And how much are you pouring into yourself? Who is showing up for you? What would it look like for you to pause for a moment and ask, what do I need right now? Because this isn't about perfection. This isn't about having it all together and having everything in place all the time. No, that's not real. This is about permission. This is about asking for permission and allowing yourself to be soft. Yeah, be soft. You don't have to be so hard all the time. You don't have to give in to this grind culture. You can be soft and you can be tired. It's okay to give yourself permission to be tired. And it's also okay to give yourself permission to prioritize your healing. Okay? Because healing is not a luxury. Let me just say that. A lot of times when we think of the word healing, what do we think of? We think of spas, and we think of retreats, and we think of massages, and we think of all of these extravagant things. No, Healing is not a luxury, and it's not only for certain groups of people. Healing is a necessity. And so, if you really want to take it a step further this week, I do have some homework, if you're up to it. And so, I am a person that really likes to journal, right? I like to take the time to write things down to get them out of my head. And I think that you can maybe benefit from doing that if that's something that you'd like to do. So take this time to write down whatever comes to mind without filtering it, without judging it. And I want to give you some prompts to help you guide your thoughts. What are some things that you're still carrying that no longer serve you? What are some things that you're still holding on to? Are you carrying any blame or any guilt for something that wasn't your fault? Is there a past hurt that's still lingering with you even though the situation has changed? Are you trying to meet the demands of others even though it constantly drains you? Do you feel pressure to always be the strong one, even when you're struggling? Do you feel responsible for making sure that everyone else is okay? And is it costing you your own peace of mind? Do you see yourself through the lens of past failures? Are there stories that have been programmed in your mind that you're still telling yourself about how you should have acted in a situation? Where in your body are you holding stress? Is there tension in your neck, in your back, in your stomach? And what might that tension be telling you about unresolved feelings? And after you reflect on these questions, just choose one of them to write down and to release. You can even create an affirmation or a statement about letting it go. I personally, I like to leave myself audio notes and voice notes, right? So sometimes I will actually record myself affirming a statement or a particular mantra. And I do that as a reminder about my own worthiness and my need for rest and care. And you can choose to do this or something else. It's totally up to you. Whatever works best for you. But some mantras that have worked for me are, I release the guilt that no longer serves me. I am not responsible for everyone else's happiness. And I choose to embrace rest without feeling guilty. So if you can begin to do these things this week with intention, I promise that you are going to start to feel and see a difference in your life. And as you're doing this week, don't be a stranger. No, I want to hear from you. So throughout your week, feel free to email me, right? So my email address is host@carefully-speaking-podcast.com. Again, host@carefully-speaking-podcast.com. I want you to send me your questions. I want you to send me your ideas, or you can simply let me know what you think of this podcast. So I want to take this time to just thank you all again so much for being here and for spending this time with me. I hope that we can get back together real soon. I'm your host, Dr. Jamillah. Take care of yourselves. Bye now.